Yeah, I got it.
At the next stop sign, turn left.
At the expense of just selling overpriced mutual funds that don't outperform the indexes. And then Vanguard came around with obviously Vogel, and he changed the world, right? He came up with index funds and ETFs and said, hey guys, you don't have to pay 1%, you can pay like 0.5%,
At the stop sign,
or
turn
you know,
left onto
0.1%. And we can still beat the active managed guys every time because we'll just track the S&P. And people are like, what? And yeah, those are the things that I think people need to focus on when they're looking at their investments. They don't have to be experts, but they do have to know what they're paying. And they do have to know what they're getting.
In about 1 mile, turn right.
Where people start using money market CDs in 2025? Unequivocally, no doubt. There's no reason for you to panic and put your money at risk just because there's nothing else out there.
Pisses
Like
me off when
at
it
the end of the
does
day, like I
that.
said, you're still in the fours. People are so funny. You're getting like 1% money market for like a decade. This is like 4 times as much. What are people like, you know, just because it dropped 50 bips? Like, I mean, people have such short-term memories. It's funny. And I think a lot of this hoopla comes from the financial industry too, trying to scare you out of these markets, hopefully get money back in the market so that they can charge their 1% fee.
There it is. You're listening to Expedition Retirement with Greg Ayler at Golden Reserve. Greg mentioned his book. You can get a copy of it.
At the next light, turn right.
We have a website for it, fireyourfinancialadvisor.com. There's a keyword you can put in there, put in radio, and you get it at half price. What if you book an appointment at Golden Reserve? We'll give you a copy of that. So give us a call, give us a look on our website, getyourroadmap.com. Getyourroadmap.com. When you go there, tool around a little bit, learn more about Golden Reserve, and there will be a place there for you to put in a little information. And when you do that, our team will reach out to you and say, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's get a date on the calendar. Or you can find us at one of our many offices across the Detroit area, Troy, Bloomfield Hills, Southfield, Novi, and Dearborn.
At the light, turn right onto Round Lake Road.
0005.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace.
313-800-0005.
Doing a little detour.
We'll take a break. Come right back with more Expedition Retirement.
I just keep doing this. It pisses me off.
Nobody wants to think about it.
It's getting out of
Nobody
hand.
wants to talk about it either. Long-term care, assisted living, home care, the nursing home. But with annual costs now regularly exceeding $100,000 and stays exceeding 3 years, this could be the largest risk to your life savings. Planning for long-term care is like buying homeowners insurance. We don't plan on your house burning down, but we want to be ready if it does. We know retirees don't want to buy more insurance. So
At the next stop sign, turn left.
retirement tool that points to our team of elder care law attorneys. These attorneys leverage new legal tools like asset protection trusts to help protect the things that matter most to you and your family. To learn more about our long-term care compass, asset protection trusts, and other retirement tools, and how we can protect and guide you down retirement mountain, go to getyourroadmap.com. That's getyourroadmap.com.
Welcome back to Expedition Retirement with Greg Ayler at Golden Reserve. Online, it's Get.
At the stop sign, turn left onto Hutchins Road. Then take the first right onto Farnsworth Road.
We have this show every single week to introduce you to Greg and his way of going
And
about
turn blinker
retirement
on with
planning.
your
Golden
brain.
Reserve is a little bit different than everybody else, and listen to this show a little bit and you'll see why. Well, one of the things that's interesting about Greg is he is an estate planning attorney.
Turn right onto Farnsworth Road. Then arrive at your destination.
So I like to bring these stories up because I'm intrigued by this, because sooner or later you're going to have a discussion about your money and then where your money goes if you're not here, and starting to talk about legal documents and stuff. So you may be talking to an estate planning attorney. Here's one from Market Watch.
Well, this is a
woman
nice
in her
change of
70s
pace.
wants to give her house and an inheritance to her daughter and her 3 grandchildren.
This is just like when Oxbow Lake Road's closed
They
again.
might get a divorce sometime and he'll walk away with half the money. So she would like to figure out, how can I give my money to my daughter and my grandchildren without giving it to my son-in-law? Is there a way?
Is there a way? So, as a estate planning attorney, people don't realize, obviously, a lot of people get the question of what I used to do. I actually used to be a corporate attorney. So I worked for Kirkland Ellis in Chicago for about half a decade. And I think it's still the largest law firm in the world, Randy. Fun fact. So I was one of those guys for about a half a decade. And then, built Ayler Stallings over the last decade or so doing estate planning and elder law, helping people kind of navigate those issues. And I think I've sat in 1,000.
And turn blinker on with your ring.
Meetings.
Ready?
Where this comment comes up.
Don't forget.
Okay.
And so this isn't the first time we've heard this.
All right.
And there's some practical. Now, the problem with attorneys, Randy, is one, they're attorneys. And that's why I don't tell anybody I'm an attorney.
Okay.
The second issue with attorneys is they're not practical applicators. They turn everything into a law school problem or a document problem. One of the things that made us unique, and I think it's why Golden Reserve's taking over the country, and I think why Ayler Stallings is growing with it, is we want to be practical. Let's be very practical in how we think through legal advice. And, it's one thing for the document to say something. It's another thing for it to be administered and not cost a fortune. So when people say, do I want, the magical world is, I'm going to break this into two pieces. The first is, do I need a trust? That's usually the most popular question most people ask. Do I need a trust, or is there a certain amount of money I need to have a trust? And the answer is probably and no. Those are the two short answers, and it's because trust can be very effective. We had a couple that had a $150,000 house and very little savings, and they would make sure their house went to their grandkids. Well, an asset protection trust shields that house from the nursing home. So paying $5,000 for a trust made a ton of sense for that family, so that they ensured that their house was protected by the rent, and they ended up going into one of them. The husband ended up going to nursing home, so it actually did exactly what it was supposed to do. The house was ultimately transferred to the grandkids. It worked. Now for them, $5,000 was a valuable. Now their estate was only worth $175,000. They probably had $20,000 of savings. Randy lived off Social Security, very simple, but that was very important. They had built that wealth. They wanted it to stay in the family. So that's a perfect example of when it can make a ton of sense. Because if you buy long-term care insurance, you can have premiums that are $5,000 a year for 20 years. So that's not a feasible route for most people. So that's an example of trust working as it's supposed to. And the same thing can be said to, should it go to my grandchildren and avoid a son-in-law or a daughter-in-law? So here's what can happen with a trust. A trust can basically do whatever you want it to do within reason, right? Like you can have stipulations that they have to go to college, that they have to be living in Ohio, that they have. I mean, you can. It's a contract, right? You can build it out as much as you can. When you make it too complicated, it's kind of like a car. It's going to break down.
Oh, straight.
And there's the more moving parts.
Yeah,
I think
I figured.
I might be getting this wrong. I'm not a gearhead.
You didn't know.
I know where Audi has the most moving
I know
parts
where you're
of any
going,
car. It's
because
also in the shop the most statistical. Because it's obviously got more areas where something could go wrong.
Oh, because we were coming
we
from
practically
Farnsworth.
talk about how do I shield money from the in-laws. The first way is to say, all right, well, we can do the easy distribution way, where it's like, we can give you a third, a third, and a third. Meaning, the assets go 25, 30,
that's a nice
35,
change of
30,
pace,
35, 40. Will that get you
doing a nice
comfortable
change
that
of pace,
if they're
I
still
say.
together after all that time, are you okay with it? Because if they get divorced after 26, they may lose a little bit of that, but not the other 2/3 is protected to go to your your daughter and your grandkids. Does that make sense, Randy? So that's one easy way of just saying, let's just defer
Thank goodness
the
they had.
over
Looks
time.
like they had the road closed
emergencies,
again.
and that hopefully gets them comfortable that at some point they're going to stay together no matter what. It doesn't matter. For other families, that's not enough. So that's just your typical delayed distributions. That's one way you can do it. The second way to do it is what we call, some states call it a dynasty trust. It sounds really fancy, right? Dynasty trust. And what that really means is you're not giving your kids an inheritance, you're giving them a trust to inherit. So instead of a distribution being, here's your check, it's here's your trust. And you can access that trust. And what makes this really tricky is that people start wondering who the trustee is going to be. So sometimes it's corporate trustees get involved and they're very expensive. And unless you have a very high net worth, it's pretty cost prohibitive. It's not worth it. So you have to have family members do it.
I was worried
so
that
if you
threw
make it
you
too
off.
complicated, it kind of breaks down again. But the idea being, if you give your daughter a trust that
We
has
knew where
her
we're going
share
now.
of the assets, the spouse does not
Like
have
the old
access to.
days?
Okay. Now, there's going to be 1,000 attorneys and the family law attorneys that are going to send comments that
What?
they'll try to break the trust.
No.
Sure, you can try. And I'm sure you can shake people down, but this is about as good of a way to isolate assets from
Yeah, I'm good.
possible marital discord.
I'm good.
You know,
Did we go the right way?
Yeah, I
I'm
made sure
licensed
we
in
went the
Ohio.
right way.
Good job.
I'm licensed in Illinois. We have people licensed over the place. We'd want you to consult your, obviously, local attorneys before you make any decisions. I'm going to put that disclaimer out here. I'm not trying to give legal advice, but I am saying that this is a popular distribution method to protect and provide additional divorce protection. The problem is when a spouse, let's say you build this for your daughter, you're like, hey, you got this trust. Awesome. Well, if your daughter takes money out of the trust and puts it in the joint bank account, it's now a joint asset. And that's the biggest hang up with these things. If you don't have corporate trust or people managing them, that when you start taking money out and putting it in something else, then it becomes problematic.